The Green Bay Packer rookie class was on the field for the first time in Green Bay. Some of the things we learned. Plus, what is the bar for Jordan Love this season? All of that on today's show.
You are Locked On Packers, your daily Green Bay Packers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Packers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Peter Bukowski, and I cover the Packers for The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts. Wherever you find podcasts, you will find Locked On Packers, the #1 Packers podcast on the internet. And the show for fans who know what happened. They want to know why and how. Thanks to everyone who makes Locked On Packers their first listen every day. We hope you like starting your day with us as much as we like starting our day with you. So the rookie minicamp was the first opportunity that the Packers got to look at this rookie class in person. And we learn very, very little in terms of how good these players are going to be. Very, very little. Now, I do think we will get some hints here and there on usage. For example, someone like Jayden Reed running a ton of jet motion. Well, that offers some insight, I think, in why the Packers went outside of their receiver thresholds. And in fact, this was something we talked about the night of the draft and have done so since. When you go back to the selection that was made with Amari Rodgers, Brian Gutekunst said outright, we did not view him as a receiver. They viewed him as something else, whether it's a slot, whether it's a gadget. I don't know what their verbiage is, but they clearly felt comfortable going outside their normal parameters. Now, Jayden Reed, just a touch short. He rounds to 5'11", and was at 187, but apparently played in the 190s, was down to 187 to run, played 190, 191. He's up to 195, he says, which is where the Packers generally want their receivers on weight. But him running all of these jet motions, I think, helps us to understand, okay, at least early on, he is probably going to be their primary jet guy. The Packers couldn't really use jet motion last year when Christian Watson was hurt. And then, well, let me rephrase that, because this is actually something that was happening in 2020 that really bothered me about the design of this offense and some of the Matt LaFleur resistance to creativity at times. And I don't know how much of that is Aaron Rodgers and how much isn't. In 2020, when Tyler Ervin got hurt, they basically scrapped jet motion when he wasn't playing. And it just felt like a missed opportunity. Now, maybe that is Aaron Rodgers. Maybe it's the concepts they felt like they could run. Like, one of the reasons why you would use Tyler Ervin on jet motion is because, well, then he doesn't have to be in the concept, and that's okay because he's not really a receiver. If you're going to just like jet motion him, or if he's going to be on the field and he's just going to run little crossing routes and they're going to run mesh 100 times a game, that worked in 2020. But we saw this over the last few years. They didn't feel like they had a player who could be a true jet player. It was supposed to be Amari Rodgers. They couldn't trust him. You can't waste Randall Cobb's legs at this point in his career on doing stuff like that. And so they just didn't, except for Christian Watson early in the season. And it made it pretty clear they didn't trust him to do much of anything else. And they, in this case, meaning some combination of Matt LaFleur and Aaron Rodgers. Because Aaron Rodgers' belief in a player very much played into how much that player saw the field. Case in point, Josiah DeGuara. The coaches believed in Josiah DeGuara so much more than Aaron Rodgers that you couldn't play him because it didn't matter. Once Christian Watson became the guy in this passing game, and some of the numbers that are out there really, really impressive. I tweeted one about success rate per target. Christian Watson was really, really good at that last year, right in that Devontae Adams range, in fact, in terms of success rate per target. One of the best in beating man coverage last year, top 5 in terms of productivity, yards per route run against man coverage. He ascended to that number 1 receiver level. Well, then you can't really use him on jets. the same way, maybe once or twice a game. And they did that against the Bears to great effect. They knew when they called that play, it was going to be a touchdown. To have another player who can do that is really nice. The other part of the receiver bit is Matt LaFleur saying in his press conference that he thought going into the draft, they would definitely be investing in some sort of veteran receiver. But whether there was a change of course or whether they were just able to get way more pass catchers than they thought, and I don't know the answer to that. He didn't hint at an answer to that. They're just going to let these young guys cook. And we did a whole show last week dedicated to this idea of should they just let these young guys be young guys? Should they just let them take their lumps and learn on the job? And then by year 2 with Jordan Love, you've got Christian Watson in year 3, Romeo Doubs in year 3, Samori Toure, who Matt LaFleur offered a great deal of support for, that he's going to take a bigger role in this offense. He basically has to. That Dontavian Wicks, Grant DuBose, and Jaden Reed are going to get real opportunities to be a part of this offense. That's 6 receivers. And in the Brian Gutekunst era, if you are a draft pick, you make the team. So it's those 6 plus Bo Melton, who is probably going to end up as a practice squad player. That is going to be your receiver room. Now, whether or not that is enough, we will see. It is an interesting group of different types. There are some, someone like Grant DuBose is not a burner. He's not a run after catch guy, just sort of a smooth route runner. Jaden Reed, slot, ball winner, run after catch with the speed. Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, Dontavian Wicks are more vertical players. And we think Christian Watson can do it all. We'll see if Romeo Doubs can do it all. Samori Toure, someone who has done a little bit of everything, has shown some juice after the catch, at least in the preseason, showed his ability to win vertical, had that long touchdown against the Bills. So there are opportunities for all of these guys, and we don't know how the tight ends are going to fit in. Matt LaFleur admitted, look, this is a position other than quarterback that takes some time, but they don't really have a choice. These guys have to play. This is something I'm going to emphasize all offseason. And Matt LaFleur reiterated his support for someone like Mercedes Lewis, saying, look, you guys know how I feel about him. I would love to have him in the building, but he's right now not in the building. We have this reporting. He's not going to go play in New York. So if he wants to keep playing, and maybe this is a decision that he takes right up till training camp, into training camp even, I think it makes sense for him to come back to Green Bay if he wants to do that. Not everyone agrees, by the way. I think the Packers would love to have him back. It is nice to have 2 different types of players with Tucker Kraft as more of that inline Y who can make plays after the catch. And then you have Luke Musgrave who can be that vertical threat, someone who can win one-on-one as a route runner. I think that differentiation of skill set is something that the Packers look for. Do you have 1 or 2 elite traits? And then we think we can fill in the rest. Allen Lazard, big body, elite blocker, ball winner on the outside. You can do something with that. Christian Watson, elite vertical player. You can do something with that. Jaden Reed, route running, my ball mentality from the slot. You can do something with that. Dontavian Wicks, ability to track the ball and make adversity plays deep, faster than he appears. You can do something with that. So these guys all have at least one skill where you go, okay, I know what this looks like. Can they develop into these other things? Christian Watson became a much more nuanced route runner last year. Romeo Doubs, I want to see you make a play with the ball in your hands. We know he can get open on the release. We know he can create at the catch point. We know he can get vertical. Can you do something with the ball in your hands? Christian Watson can. I think Samori Toure can. I think someone like Jaden Reed can. Tucker Kraft can. Can Romeo Doubs. That's the next step in the evolution for him. Lucas Van Ness is someone that I just sort of wanted to circle back on because we learned absolutely nothing about Lucas Van Ness in a minicamp, in a rookie camp. Like, remember, we were ready to send Josh Jones to the Hall of Fame after he looked really good in shorts in minicamp, in rookie camp. We just, until the pads come on, guys who play in the trenches, we learn nothing about them. But I wanted to bring this up because I think it's important. He was billed, by me included, as a raw pass rusher. And go back and listen to our conversation with Eddie McGilvray where he explained, look, this guy is just scratching the surface of his potential. And the reason why I think that stands out to me is if you get in the weeds, and I'm gonna consider myself in this category with the technique. And I am very big in process over outcome. If you get in the weeds on the technique, how he's winning, you miss the forest for the trees. Because you miss how often he is winning. First round edge players, Lucas Van Ness and later in the first round, there's 4 guys. Lucas Van Ness had an 18.8% pass rush win rate according to Pro Football Focus. Will McDonald, who's taken right after him, 15.7% pass rush win rate. Myles Murphy, who is a more technically refined pass rusher, or at least has a go-to move right now. Move, not just speed to power, bull rush. Lucas Van Ness will just run through you. 14.3% pass rush win rate. Felix Anudike-Uzomah, who is a much more refined, technically polished pass rusher than Lucas Van Ness. One of the reasons why I was a big fan of his. 16% pass rush win rate. And it would be one thing if he was doing that at Montana State or Florida A&M or, just like any non-Power 5 school. He's doing this in the Big Ten, where you've got to play Paris Johnson and DeJuan Jones and Luke Whippler inside. These guys who were NFL draft picks who play on Sundays. And he's winning his pass rush reps almost 1 in 5. With nothing in his pass rush toolbox, except he is huge, twitched up, and can convert speed to power. He will just run through your face. And he is so big and so strong that he can do that consistently. The fact that he can do that now and win more often than these other guys who technically have more refined skill sets speaks to the upside. What will he look like when he actually has a bag of pass rush moves? Forget a bag. How about one? He can bull rush you. He can convert speed to power. So he has the bull rush. But it's not even a full bull rush, because at the end, he will bully an offensive lineman into the backfield and then sort of not quite have the, all right, I'm going to disengage and get to the quarterback. He has the flexibility to flatten to the quarterback. He has the bend, flashes it anyway to dip and bend the edge, has the lateral agility to counter inside. We just don't see him do it consistently. So imagine when he has a plan, when he can have something off. We saw Rashawn Gary do this. Line up in that wide 9, bull rush this guy a couple times, convert that speed to power, get him on his heels, and now hit that inside counter. Outside foot, get going inside, and whether it's a rip, whether it's a swim, whatever it is, sometimes you don't have to do much of anything if you're as laterally explosive as some of these guys are. And we've seen this with Rashawn Gary. Inside counter can be your best friend. Preston Smith. This was a Zadarius Smith special. Inside counter. Just put that in the bag. He's already winning more often. Will McDonald's 24. Gonna be any minute. 24. Lucas Van Ness is not even 22. And so I think, like, I am including myself on this in saying I just don't think I gave him enough credit for how good he was right now. I was more thinking about the amount of steps and work it would take to get to where he can go. Because I saw the ability. I saw the raw piece of clay that he was and thought, man, imagine where he can get to. Oh, the places he can go. But I'm thinking, okay, well, it's going to take a lot of work to get there. Like he can be, I'm going to be careful here, but you just heard his coach, Eddie McGilvray, say he thinks Lucas Van Ness can be one of the best defensive players, one of the best players in the league. I watched him at Iowa and thought, with some work, this guy could be Joey Bosa. He's not Nick Bosa. Nick Bosa's bendier, a little bit more twitched up. Joey Bosa is the comp to me. And again, I know it's a white dude, but that's who he reminds me of in terms of the really good reps. That's what he can be, because when he has those good reps, it is arms above shoulders. It is making sure you're playing with good leverage. And once he gets that technique down, he is going to be an absolute animal. All right, let's talk about Jordan Love. We're going to do that in just a second. Before we do, today's episode brought to you by friends at Built Bar. Looking for a delicious snack? Come on, let's be honest. You are. We all are. But you don't want to break your caloric bank on it, right? Also me. I'm going to go have a Built Bar as soon as we finish recording this. I have them every day. They are wonderful. They taste delicious, 100% real chocolate flavors. I love the cookies and cream puff. I've got peanut butter puffs in my cabinet right now. I've got the mint chocolate puffs, these limited edition flavors, but all the basic flavors. I've got coconut puffs on the way. I'm a big fan of the puffs, but I love the regular flavors too. Peanut butter brownie, cookies and cream, coconut brownie chunk. All great. 17 grams of protein, 4 grams of sugar, 130 calories. What they're able to do is truly remarkable. Now, I tend to go to built.com because I have a toddler and we expect another one any day here. So I don't have a lot of opportunities to go out to the store. It's just easier for me to go to the website. But if it's easier for you to grab a box while you're out and about running errands, Walmart, Sam's Club, go do that. Go grab a box there. And it's easy. You can get them right now. You don't have to wait. When I go to built.com, I got to wait, right? That's the deal. I don't live next to the factory, and even if I did, it'd probably take 2 days. Now I can just go to the store. I can go to Walmart. I can go to Sam's Club and pick up a box today. Thanks to everyone who makes Locked On Packers their first listen every day. The rest of the week, we are going to be continuing our rookie orientation series. I may be off for a day or two with this impending child. As of this recording, not in labor yet. The doctor said it would happen. My wife is ready for it to happen, but not here. So if I'm in the hospital, I can't record a show, but just wanted to give you a heads up. If you don't see a podcast in your feed, that is why, but I will be back shortly thereafter. All right. I know that a lot of off-season content is made just for opportunities like this, for me to be annoyed about it. So I'm not going to be annoyed about it. Kyle Brandt came out with his QB tiers, and there was an NFC QB tier and an AFC QB tier, and the AFC QB tier, even Trevor Lawrence was like, is this guy serious? Now, I'm not going to quibble with where he has Jordan Love. That's not what this is, and I'm not going to quibble with where he has Justin Fields, though I do have quibbles with where he has Justin Fields. Not the point. The point is, this list is rough. It's rough. And so it got me thinking, what caliber, what tier of quarterback does Jordan Love have to be for this team to win 9 or 10 games? And I thought Mina Kimes did a great job on NFL Live the other day explaining that the pressure is not on this offense. The investment has been on defense. The pressure is on this defense. 8 first-round picks on this defense. That's a lot of investment. And then, not just that, 8 first-round picks, plus a high-money free agent, Devondre Campbell, another free agent, Rasul Douglas, another free agent, Keyshawn Nixon. All of these guys, now Keyshawn Nixon was not a big money deal, but he was signed with the idea that he was going to come in and play defense, not just return kicks. So there's a lot of pressure on this defense to perform the way that the talent says it can. That means there's a lot of pressure on Joe Barry. So the degree to which the bar that Jordan Love has to clear, the degree to which he has to improve, or at least show improvement, maybe he has improved, depends on how good this defense is, at least relative to winning games. because the bar for someone like Brock Purdy is pretty low. Great skill talent, elite coaching staff in terms of play design and play calling, and then a defense that is going to keep teams under 20 consistently. So can you get to 17 or 20, 21? You're going to win a bunch of games if you're the 49ers starting quarterback. The Packers, at least right now, are not in that position. So I'm going to start at the top. And this is not about Kyle's rankings. I'm not here to complain about those rankings. I don't really care. How high in these tiers does he have to go? There are 7 tiers. Right now, Kyle has Jordan Love in tier 6 with Desmond Ridder in Atlanta, who's barely played. He's in year 2. Sam Howell in Washington. He has barely played. He's in year 2. And then Bryce Young is in tier 7. He's a rookie. We've never seen him. We don't know anything about him. So he's in tier 6. There's 7 tiers. How high does he have to go? Well, tier 1 is Jalen Hurts. Now, I would argue that Dak Prescott is in that Jalen Hurts tier, and I would argue Matthew Stafford is probably in tier 1 if he's healthy, but he's not healthy. We don't know how healthy he's going to be when he's back. We don't know if he's ever going to be healthy ever again. So I'm actually fine just having Jalen Hurts in a tier by himself because he has made strides every year he's been in college. He's made strides every year he's been in the pros. If he takes another little step forward, I think he will be clearly ahead of these other guys. Tier 2, Dak Prescott, Kirk Cousins, Matthew Stafford. The Rams are going to be bad. The Vikings are expected to go to the playoffs. And the Cowboys are not favorites, but certainly in that second tier. It's the Eagles, Cowboys, and 49ers, and then everyone else in the NFC. So Green Bay, in order to compete with those teams, would have to get that level of play, I think, from Jordan Love. Unlikely, but we're not expecting them to go out and win 12, 13 games. That is the expectation in Philly. That is the expectation in Dallas. It may be the expectation among Vikings fans. It's not the expectation internally in Minnesota. And the Rams are just not going to be very good. That defense is putrid. Then we get into this next tier. Derek Carr, Jared Goff, Geno Smith. Now, this is the tier I think Jordan Love can get to this year. I think he could get to tier 2. I just think it's unlikely. There's like a between 1 and 5% chance he gets into that tier, but I think that speaks more to the bar. It's low. This group, Jared Goff, the Rams, all they wanted to do was move on from him. He is a button pusher QB. And he can be a really good button pusher. We've seen it when he's got talent around him. This was an elite offense last year. He did what was asked of him. He didn't kill them, especially in the second half of the season. Jordan Love can do a Jared Goff impression. He can. Derek Carr, the Raiders paid him and still were like, you know what? We're not really that into it. Moved on from him. Geno Smith, Jets moved on. Giants moved on. Multiple teams moved on from Geno Smith as a starting quarterback. He comes in Seattle with DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett and a good run game and a better than expected defense. And all of a sudden, he's making Pro Bowls. He's not more talented than Jordan Love. He's not. Jared Goff is not. And certainly Jared Goff has more warts, I think, than Jordan Love because Jordan Love can actually turn negative plays, pressures, into positive plays. Whereas Jared Goff, when he gets pressure, he turtles. Jordan Love wants to go make a play. Now, can he avoid turning those plays into negatives? But you go back and look at the college stats. Jordan Love did a very good job of avoiding negative plays when he was pressured. Did a very good job of not allowing pressures to turn into sacks. Justin Fields, for example, was the opposite. When he got pressured, he took a lot of sacks. In fact, a troublingly high number. It is a problem that was seen at Ohio State. You go, okay, well, that's part of the offense. He's holding onto the ball because things take some time. No, this has been a problem in the NFL level too. He holds onto the ball too long. He doesn't see it cleanly all the time. He is slow to get it to where he needs to get it at times. So this is tier 3. I think if he gets there, this is a 9 or a 10 win team. And if he gets there and it's not a 9 or a 10 win team, it is because the defense once again underachieves and Joe Barry has got to be out. That's just the reality. Now, just in case you think tier 3 is too high, tier 4 is Daniel Jones, Justin Fields, and Kyler Murray. Now, I think it's unfair to have Kyler Murray in this tier. I think he should be in tier 3 just as a pure player, playmaker, not someone on that contract that I would want any part of, not something as a leader I would want any part of, just like not for me, but as a player on the field, he absolutely deserves to be at least in tier 3, if not tier 2. Because as a player, as a thrower, as a playmaker, he is special because of his movement skills, because of his arm talent. So there's no way he doesn't belong in a higher tier. But because of all of those things, that's where he is. Daniel Jones, Justin Fields, who I posted this stat on Twitter, has yet to have a 300-yard game in his career. Jordan Love had more production in a half against Detroit than Justin Fields did in 6 full games last year. His productivity as a passer is embarrassing. And so this is where things get interesting. It's like, okay, well, if he can't get into that tier, there's a big problem because the Giants won a lot of games just making stuff up for Daniel Jones. Designed run plays, a ton of boots, a ton of play action with a bad receiver core. The Packers have a better offensive line than the Giants. They've got a better, deeper group of running backs than the Giants, a better, more talented group of tight ends than the Giants, a better, deeper group of receivers than the Giants had last year. And then so that leaves you quarterback and coach. I don't think there is a huge gap between Brian Daboll and Matt LaFleur, if one exists at all, but we're going to see this year. Because Daniel Jones could not stop turning the ball over until Brian Daboll showed up. Now, Jordan Love has not been a turnover machine in his NFL career in very limited snaps. Not even turnover-worthy plays. So this is just something that I feel very strongly about. If he can't get into this Daniel Jones tier, that's a problem. That's a problem. Let's flip one more tier down. If you think tier 4 is too high, because tier 5 is Baker Mayfield and Brock Purdy. And we can quibble about where Brock Purdy is. Brock Purdy may not even be able to throw. He was asked, he might not even be able to throw this year. And I thought his play last year was pretty overrated. I think like I could go in and run that offense. You could go in and run that offense. That's how talented it is. That's how good Kyle Shanahan is. As a play designer, I have some misgivings about him doing other things, but in those ways, he's elite. Jordan Love can't be better than Baker Mayfield at this point in his career, can't be better than half-arm Brock Purdy. If he gets into tier 4, this team is going to get where it wants to go this year, and that is show some improvement, have Love show that he is more than just a guy, because that is the tier he is in right now. The Ritter, Howell, Love tier is young. The next tier, 5, Mayfield and Purdy, those are just guys. Just guys. They are just quarterbacks. They're like quarterbacks in name only. The next tier is like, okay, we like this guy. He's not great, but we like him. That's where you want him to get to at the very least. And I think he can and will get at least there this season. The question is, can he get a little bit higher? And if he does, if he can play, and this is just like, think about what I'm saying. If he can play as well as Jared Goff did last year, if he can get to Jared Goff levels, a player that the Rams needed to move on from to win a Super Bowl, if he can just get to that level, this Packers team is going to be good, man. People don't realize it, but it is not a high bar to clear. All right, thanks to everyone who makes Locked On Packers their first listen every day. We hope you like starting your day with us as much as we like starting our day with you. Our rookie orientation series climbs on the rest of the week, depending on what happens with my wife and our child. So just keep an eye out for all of that. Keep an eye on this feed. Keep an eye on this space. Yeah, that's fine. A lot more to come this week and the rest of this spring and into the offseason. We are just a few weeks away from mini camps where we start to learn some things. We start to have some understandings of where these players are, what the Packers can actually throw at them, what roles they're going to have on this team. We're going to start to figure some of that out coming up here at the end of the month. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts. Wherever you find podcasts, you'll find Locked On Packers. And anytime you want to come hang out with us live, not sure at this point what could warrant a live, but we're going to do some lives just to do some lives over the course of the spring and summer so you can stay Locked On Packers.